Bienvenidos, por mientras esperamos que todos se puedan conectar. Les damos la más cordial bienvenida desde el centro, la Fundación CLEC, el Centro Regional, Oficina Regional para América Latina y el Caribe. Mi nombre es Andrea Mella, soy la coordinadora de Cultura. Y hoy día, como ha sido costumbre durante estas jornadas, esta es la segunda semana que tenemos este taller de idioma y cultura china, estamos dándole la bienvenida nuevamente al profesor Meng Dehong, que ha sido altamente apreciado por todos los estudiantes. La verdad que ha sido muy interesante todas sus clases, hemos aprendido mucho. Para quienes no conocen el idioma chino, para quienes sí conocen un
Today,
poco.
let's welcome Professor Meng Dehong from Beijing Foreign Studies University to talk about today's topic.
Y darle la más cordial bienvenida al profesor Mo.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Especially so thank you for all the interpreters. Interpreters to cooperate with me. It's so grateful for your work. Thank you for all the dear friends. Dear all the professors, before I introduce the topic, I will give an advertisement. Today is a birthday of it's a birthday of China's important university. It's Beijing Normal University's birthday. I graduated from I graduated from Beijing Normal University. I'm so respected and proud of my university, Beijing Normal University. If you are a teacher, welcome to China, welcome to Beijing, welcome to Beijing Normal University. You can to look around the campus. Today is the 120th birthday of Beijing Normal University. So I introduce this university to you. Today, it's a very interesting topic. It's about a worm, insect. It's various worm. So worms is in every countries. In some countries, the people like to eat the worm. I don't know. Do you like eat the worm? For me, I can. I don't have the courage to eat the worm. If you come to China, if you come to a very important commercial street, it's called Wangfujing. If you come to Wangfujing Snacks Street, there are many worms in it. For example, scorpion. You can eat the scorpion in this street. So I'm afraid of eating this scorpion. I don't know. Do you have the courage to eat them? So in your country, does the person eat the worm, or what times the worm do you eat? So today, let's start today's introduction. The topic is the worm in the Chinese characters. The name we call the 虫鸣螽斯 is a katydids. So what is 螽斯? 螽斯 is one type of worm. It's a katydid. In 2000 years ago, in the Shi Jing Bible of poem, it has noted this type of the worm. I will explain the poem later. So now you listen to the sentence and listen to my pronunciation. I will translate into modern Chinese.
终死于唧唧兮，一儿子孙哲哲兮。好的，这里边说的这个虫子，
In this poem, 2,000 years ago, Chinese people, we called 中斯 as a catdid. So my title called 虫鸣螽斯 is an ancient worm. 中斯羽 羽 it means the wings. It's the wings of the worm. So you can find if the worm open their wings, why have so many the worms? Your descendants has so many descendants. So the population of the worms is so big. So the family is a big family. So for Chinese people, we like our family is a big family. So in our family, if we have the plenty of the kids, we are very happy. We call the 人丁兴旺. But if we have many children, many kids, and our family is prosperous. So for other Chinese people, we like in our family, we have many kids. So from this worm, we can see this type of the worm is so gorgeous because they have so many family members. So in second paragraph, this is to tell us this type of worm is the sound of many insects flying. It's loud because this descendant is endless. In last paragraph, it tells us so many, plenty of the katydids, they like to be the gathering. So many worms. It's a big family. So you can see in history, Chinese people like the more kids in our family. So more kids, more prosperous. So this type of thinking, it led to the China is the biggest and have the most population of the world. So it's the thinking is the basis of the thinking, basis of the background culture background. Several years ago, we have the control the population because in China the population is too heavy. Now Chinese people increased. So Chinese government now is very anxious about the population because now in China, most of the young people, they don't want to get married and have the kids. They don't want to be the parents. So today's China's government, they are very, very anxious about the population. So do you have a baby or not? It related with the society development. If the society is advanced, most of the people, they don't want to get married. If your country is undeveloped, maybe most of the people choose to get married. So in ancient times, we call this time. So this type of the worm we call the xi shuai. Xi shuai is cricket. They have other name is guo guo, qu qu. Xi shuai is a cricket. This is 2,000 years ago, we called 中斯. In today's Chinese, we call the cricket 蟋蟀. Because these types of worms, they like to fight. So in China, most people like to rear this type of worm. They use the worms to fight. Actually, it's like a bat. This type of the story in China is popular. So Chinese people to rear it like a pet. They use it to gamble. It's one type of the pet of the Chinese people. It has a long history to rear these worms. It's said that in Tang Dynasty, Chinese people start to rear the cricket. The most important dynasty is in Song Dynasty. In Ming and Qing Dynasty is flourishing. In China, Xiangshan, Yuquan Mountain, in hot spring, everywhere have this. In Forbidden City, in North Asian, in Temple of the Heaven, in Thai Temple, also we can catch this cricket. And these types have plenty of the types and plenty of the species. You can see the second picture. In Qing Dynasty, you can see most of the people like use the cricket to gamble. They have their own gamble and use the gamble to fight. And which cricketer win, you can get a lot of money. This in Qing Dynasty. In left picture, it's in modern China. So many Beijing people rear the cricket. So this history is up to now. So cricket can shout, and in autumn, plenty of the crickets in the fields, in the soil, to tweet. They use this cage to catch the cricket into this cage and rear in the house, and to let it to tweet, and they like listen to this sound. So Chinese people regard the sound, the tweet of the verbs we call the ming. Ming is the sound in Chinese. In autumn, is the most important times for all the worms they tweet. So for Chinese people, we call it have more keys. It's easy to have the keys. 遗子, it means it's easy to get the keys to have the baby. So this type of the worm is easy to get the keys. This cricket has strong vitality. So these two symbol, you have the descendants. So in Bible poem, except the 中思语, there still have other poem to appreciate, to admire this type of the worm. For example, 七月 in 唐风蟋蟀, these two poems also noted it. Because 蟋蟀, cricket is one type of pet. So it's also the Chinese people said 玩物丧志. 玩物 is your pet. So Chinese people is you're obsessed with all the pets, you will lose your ideas. So Chinese people, they think you cannot spend more time in your pets. You should use your energy, use your time in the worms. You're obsessed with all the pets, you will lose your ideals and lose your work. So if you spend more time in pets, you will have no thinking and source of your and in your work. So do you agree with this source? So it's the Chinese traditional thinking. You don't take too much time and your energy in your pets. So in China, this cricket is a very, very famous pet. In our high school, middle school, the textbook, actually, we have one passage to describe this worm. This worm have another name we call the 醋汁. 醋汁 is also this worm cricket. It's very famous. It's a myth. It's a father like to play the cricket and his child dead and his kid change into the cricket and fight with other cricket and help his father to get a lot of money. Actually, it's a tragedy. So if you take too much, if you spend more time in this path, maybe you will lose your kids. So in China, it's a very famous story. Most of the Chinese, if they join the high school and middle school, they will know this story. This is cricket. So cricket, this season is autumn in Beijing. Beijing now is in autumn. Autumn is a very important season. It's for all the worms, they tweeting everywhere. So we call the worms in autumn, they tweet and shouting all the time. So this cricket is the worms, is the most important symbol of the worm in autumn. So this worm is a signal and it's a symbol of this season. In Oracle, 3,000 years ago, you will find we use this worm to express the autumn. You can see these characters. These characters on the right. You can see actually it's appearance of the worm. This worm is actually the cricket. This cricket is change into the qiu. Qiu is autumn. So we take this worm to express the autumn. So in Chinese literacy and some poems also have noted the autumn of the worm. For example, in ancient poem 17 and Mu Lan Ci and a poet called Jiang Kui have noted it. In the Chinese ancient literature has noted this worm. Today, I have a very famous poet we called Liu Shahe. Liu Shahe also wrote a poem for this worm. This title is just that cricket. just that a cricket. So why? Why he wrote this worm? Because you will know in autumn, the worm is shouting to make you miss your home. It's the homesick. When we listen to the sound of the worm, maybe we will miss our hometown and have the homesick. So this worm is a symbol of the homesick. It's to express a sick of the homesick. So you can say in this poem, he wrote the poet. So what's the appearance of this worm? You can say in ancient time, according to the appearance of the cricket, we create the Chinese characters. Cricket is in the autumn, so we use this worm to express autumn. In 经文, this 秋 in 篆书 we plus the shape, meaning shape in 隶书 and 楷. This order of the 秋 it's this a character of Qiu. The pronunciation is Qiu, it's the first term, and his radical is He, and have 9 lines. So all the friends, you can see it's the earliest autumn we write like this. It's the appearance of the worm. So in the left part, we plus another radical is He. He is corn. It means the wheat. In China, in autumn is for the farmers have a good harvest. So left radical is harvest. The right part is to tell you when you have a good harvest, you can hear the sound of the worm. So these two radicals, these two radicals tell us this season is autumn. One radical is the worm and another one is the harvest. But you can see this worm, when we write it, it's so difficult. So we use the worm to express the autumn. It's hard to write. We don't want to write complicated words. It's simple is better. We leave the radical and the right part. We use another radical to express it. This is 火, 火 is fire. 和 is food, 火 is fire. When combined together in autumn, we can see all the wheat like fire. All the corns, all the wheat is firing. So if I have the experience, especially in autumn, you can see in autumn, all the wheat like a fire. So in China, as a Nobel Prize, we call the 莫言. He has a most famous story is 红高粱, is red sorghum. All the crops are ripe, so 秋 for professional part. When we explain it, That is to say, we use a new actions and a new method to create these words. So chill change into like this. So it's the complex. Just now, I explained all these words of chill. Now, I will replay this video.
那就辛苦那个美雅，辛苦 Romeo， 辛苦王老师，辛苦宋老师了啊！我们来看一下，我们再重新看。
So let's replay the video. Ancient times, the people use the appearance of the creek water to express autumn. So, in oracle means the crops are ripe. In Jing, it's similar to the oracle. In 小篆, we eliminate and choose the fire as another radical. In Li and Kai script, and other radical we pronounce it Qiu, the first tone, and his radical is He crop and have 9 patterns. So this is the Qiu autumn. So you can see in this picture, it looks like this. So this word is hard to write, so we change it to a simple part. This is the worm of autumn, this cricket. For Liu Shahe, he wrote this poem. I will read the poem. Because this poem to write the worm, I will read it. This poem is actually to express the homesick of the author. I will read it. Just that a cricket, his wings flapping, and right crossed the street from Taipei and into your yard, and every nice thing. In China mainland, you can hear the sound. Most important, in Taiwan, you can hear the sound. It's expressed China's mainland and Taiwan to miss each other. Just that's a cricket. We sing in it's a sand in Hua Mu Lan, the weaving machine, and sand in the poem of Jiang Kui. Farmers sing, the women sing. Just that a cricket, it sand in the valley of the mountain, in the Great Wall, in the hotel, in the warrior. Lonely guest listened, soldier listened, just that a cricket, it sand in your memory, it sand in my memory. It's sing for the surprise of the kid. It's lonely of the middle-aged. We memorized the Latin. We memorized the Latin. We memorized the monkey. We memorized the flower. We memorized the pomegranate. Also, we memorized the yellow leaves of our hometown. We memorized the lotus. We memorized the birds. We memorized all the grass of our hometown. We memorized the clothes that my mother made. We memorized all the time that passed by. Just that a cricket, it send the side of street, it send this side of the street, it send in the alley of Taipei, it send in the alley of Sichuan, everywhere to sing. It's a monotonous melody, and it's a harmonious melody to condense into water, to condense into the dewdrop, burn into light. This is firefly. This is a bird. This is a partridge crying in the heart of the nostalgic. Just that a cricket, it send in out of your window. It send out of my window. You are listening. I am missing. I'm listening. I'm chanting. Do you guess what I chanting? Do you guess what I thinking? China has China's mentality. China has Chinese ear. This is to describe the worm, to describe the homesick of Chinese people. So 中丝 is this worm. 中 this word, these characters. In the up is 冬. This radical, it means winter. Under is two radicals. It's one second radical. We pronounce it 回. 回. What is 回? You can see this picture. 回actually is this character. It's one type of poisonous snake. These two words is similar. We call it ta. We pronounce ta. Ta is also a poisonous snake. So hui and ta, a long time ago, actually it's the same correct characters. It means poisonous snake. So today, this radical and plus another radical together, it's a new characters. It means the snake. So two radicals combined. So it's now the today's Chinese characters we call the snake is 蛇. So two radicals, it means poisonous snake. And this radical we call the hui. If have double radicals, we pronounce the kun. If have three radicals together, actually it's pronounced the chong. But today we change this pronunciation. The first hui in today's Chinese pronunciation, we pronounce it chong. But all of this radical together to express the worm, especially for the second, together we call the 昆虫. 昆虫 is insect. It's a general name of insect. In Chinese, it's a general name of insect we call the 昆虫. So, 虫 in China have how many types of the worm? Chinese people say if the worm has the feet, we call the 虫. If without the feet, we call the 蛉. The worm with the feet, we call the 虫.
So it's the different name for the different types. 不同的虫子的类型，我们有
different types. We have different names. With feet, we call it 虫. Without feet, we call it 蛉. So long time ago, all the animals we called 虫. The Chinese people called all the animals is 虫, is a worm. For example, if this worm is very thin and very long, we will call it long worm. We call the 长虫. 长虫 is a long worm. Actually, it refers to the snake. If have too many feet, for example, if it has 100-footed worm, have 100 feet, we call the 100-footed worm. It refers to centipede. In English, the centi, it refers to the word, centi, it refers to the 100. This is 蜈蚣. 蜈蚣is a centipede. It's the same as Chinese. Chinese regarded the centipede as a 100-footed worm. If this worm is tall and mighty, we call the big worm. Powerful and big worm. This big worm, it refers to tiger. So long worm is a snake. 100-footed worm is a centipede. Big worm is tiger. So actually, all the snake, centipede, and tiger, actually, all of this, we called it something plus 虫, something plus worm. So tiger is a big worm. If a female tiger, we call the 母大虫, big female worm. It describes female tiger. It's not to describe a worm, it's to describe the woman. It's a particularly domineering woman. It's not a female tiger. It refers to some woman, some women is particularly domineering. Is so to control her husband. We call the big female worm. So this is the changing of this word, So you cannot say female tiger to the woman, especially. That means your wife is too domineering. You can set these words to the female. So the husband, if dominate to her husband. Is to bully her husband, we call the 妻管严. So from the unearthed oracle bones, these characters with ta is similar. Actually, ta is the original words of a snake. So some scholars say 虫 maybe is a snake. So in this snake, 蛇, into the people's thought, it's a very long time ago. We know in China's ancient mythology, our ancestor, we called Fu Xi and Nü Wa. Fu Xi is China's Adam, Nü Wa is China's Eve. So we call it, they are human-headed and snake-shaped. The most interesting part you can see, for Chinese people, this male and female together, it's look like this. Actually, it's like the appearance of the gene. So some people said it seems that the Chinese people, they already found the gene of the person, of the human beings. So it's the code of the Chinese people's gene. So you can see in Bible also have the snake, because Adam and Eve, it's seduced by the snake. They ate the wisdom apple. So when people know this snake is in long time ago, so what's the secret hidden by the snake? Up to now, actually, we don't have the accurate answer, but we can know snake is closely related with the human beings. Every group, every country, every community, they also have the story with the snake. In China, we also have one very important and famous and very famous myth we call the legend of snake. In Western country, it's a Snow White. In China, we have the legend of snake. This white snake is a good woman. If you have any interest, you can read this story. In English, we call the legend of snake, because the appearance of the snake, it become a cognitive singer of the category. Chinese people regard all the animals, we pronounce it as a chong, worm. So we use the chong to distinguish the type of the animal. We divide into 5 species. Why we use 5 species? So in China, we have the concept of 五行, 5 elements. 金, 木, 水, 火, 土, gold, wood, water, fire, and mud. 金 is a mental. 土, earth, soil, mud. Chinese people think the word combined with these 5 concepts. These 5 is 5 worms. 金虫, metal worms, we call the 介虫. For example, turtle, crocodile. They have a big shell and a big armor. So Chinese people, we call the 金虫 and 介虫. And the 木虫, we call the 毛虫, with hair, and the animal with hair. So such as lion, tiger, and jaguar. All of these animals with hair, so we call the 毛虫. The third, we call the 水虫, the worms under the water. For example, we call the 鳞虫. 鳞 have the scales. According to these standards, all of these water worms, for example, fish, shrimp, we call the 水虫 or 鳞虫. The fourth, we call the 火虫, and 雨虫 is the worm with fire. It has the feather. They have the feather. The last, we call the 土虫, the soil worm. Also, we call the 裸虫. 裸 is naked worm. Without hair, without a feather, just with the skin, 裸虫. What is a 裸虫? The naked worm. Actually, it refers to human beings. 裸 naked worms also is the soil worms. So you can see Adam is originated from the words of human. Hume, this it means the earth. So you can see Adam is the God uses the mud to create the person. So the same in China's myth, we also have a legend. It's the human beings made of the earth. Use the earth to make the people in China. This it's not the god, it's 女娲. And that woman creates the human beings use the earth. So you can see not only in the West, but also in the East, we have the same thing thoughts. Human beings are made of soil. So this idea is the same both in Western and in East. Human beings is the products of the soil. So just now we said one type of worm we call the 毛虫, the animal with the hair. For example, this is a horse. Horse is the representative of the worm with hair. In oracle, in Jing script, it's similar with the oracle. In Zhuan script, we change into. In Li and Kai script, it's simplified. We pronounce it ma, third turns. His radical is like this, have 3 radicals. I will replay it again. Ancient, according to the appearance of the horse, they create the new words is a horse in oracle. In Jing script, is similar with the oracle. In Zhuan script, it creates a different part of the horse. In Li Kai script, it's simplified. So in today's China, the character is right like this. We pronounce it is a ma, third turn. The part is horse has 3 radicals. It's a representative of the worm with fair, and another representative of the worm with the scale. Chinese people, according to the appearance of the fish, they create the characters. It means an animal under the water. In oracle and Jing script is according to the appearance to create it. In Zhuan script, it describes the aspects to describe it. In Li and Kai script, it's changing into 3 radicals for knife, for soil, for the fire. So in today's Chinese characters, we write like this. The pronunciation is yu, second tone. It have 8 radicals, 8 paintings. So we will replay the video and you can watch it again. The ancient, according to the appearance of the fish, they create the words. Its original meaning is one animal under the water. So in Jin script and Oracle script, it's similar. In Zhuan script, we use different parts to describe these words. We use the fish head, the fish body, and the in Li and Kai, we divide three radicals, three parts. One part is knife, one part is field, one part is fire. And now we write the words like this. The pronunciation is yu, second tense. The radical is yu, have 8 patterns. Oh, okay. Now we can see in the ancient Chinese people, we called all the animals is a worm, have a different species, 5 species of the worm. But in recent China, with the Western science and technology into China, Chinese people also is changing their cognition, including for the animals. So the concept of the worm as a distinguish it refers to the insect. In today's China, 虫, it refers to the insects. With this 虫 radical have so many Chinese characters. Generally, it's defined. The first one is the general name of all the insects and small animals. For example, grasshopper, ant, butterfly, dragonfly, earthworm, spider. 蜘蛛 spider, bee, frog. Second, it's one type of the animal of dragon and snake. For the soil dragon, with the 虫 radical to refers to the snake or dragon. For example, dragon. The kinds of the name of the dragon, for example, 蛇. Man is snake. It's different species of snake. The third is other species. This is related with the worm, but it's from other parts, actually. For example, 红, rainbow. 蛋, egg. This is all the words related with the worm. So you can see now in Chinese, the 虫 refers to all kinds of insects and small animals. It refers to all the insects. So now you should know 虫 is only related with the insects. It's the general name of the insects. So in Chinese, we use the 虫 to describe some things. For example, 蛔虫. We have many other meanings to describe this. In Chinese, we use worm to describe the different the kinds of people. We use 虫 to describe kinds of person. For example, and we also have this idiom, such as such idiom have so many idioms with the word. 虫 in Chinese language is very important and so many of types. Chinese have a law. One person alone is a dragon. A bunch of the people is a worm. When you do it independent, you will do very good. But if you do these things, many people together do one thing, it will do it worse. Because of the time, this is my introduction. I will give the chapter to the Maya. Thank you. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
非常非常感谢老师，是非常非常有意思。Muchísimas
It's a very, very interesting topic.
Muchísimas gracias y nos vemos
Thank you so much.
para otra interesante sesión de idioma y cultura china. Vamos entonces a dar la bienvenida a la profesora Chang para que presente al siguiente panelista profesor que nos va a exponer a continuación. Chang 老师。
OK， sí, gracias. 首先呢，非常
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the Professor Meng. Now I will introduce the Professor Wang Houshuai. Wang Houshuai is the Associate Professor Master Supervisor. Is a Lepidoptera Taxonomy Systematics of Evolutionary Biology. He is the member of the most professional committee of the Chinese Entomological Society, and he has other scientific projects. Now let's welcome Professor Wang to give today's speech. Okay. All the friends, good evening. My name is Wang Houshuai from the South China Agriculture, the Research Center of South China Insect Diversity. It's a great honor to have this chance to introduce some knowledge about insect. The title of this speech is Introduction to Insect World. I will tell three aspects. First one is what are insects? Second is insect diversity. The third is importance of insects. So first, let's look at this picture. What are insects? In Chinese, insects combined with two characters. First one is kun, another is chong. Kun is earliest is appeared in the device. The up is the sun. The have two person. It's a two person is a work under the sun. It's similar with the zhong. Zhong is plant in oracle. Zhong is up is the sun, and the under part is three persons. Kun, the original meaning, it means plenty. Another word, chong. Chong, it appeared in oracle. These characters, it looks like a snake in Xizhou dynasty. In the head, we wrote two eyes. In the later, it changed into the chong worm insect. So chong's original meaning is a snake, but in ancient China, worm it not only refers to the snake also refers to other small animals because of the baby insects is a curve like a snake. Even 虫 as to refers to all the animals. For example, 大虫 big worm is tiger, long worm is snake. 草履 worm is a type of animals, is a protozoan. 履 is a shoe, 草 is grass. So this worm, the appearance looks like a worm. For example, another worm we call the beetle. Another 蜱虫 is like a spider. Another 百足虫, 140 worm, we call it a centipede. Because centipede with 100 feet. So in this, all the animals expects the 甲虫. Other words, it not belong to the insects. From the etymology, what are the insects? In Latin American language, we call insecta. In English, it's anta. Sectus, translated into Chinese, is cut. So it's together, it's a 切入, is cut in two. So what's the relations with the insects? So you can see the insects, for example, the dragonflies, for example, the grasshoppers. You can look at this body has different parts. It's one by one parts. It's like insects. It's like the knife to cut it. So according to the appearance, from the Latin America language, we can get this. Insects belong to arthropoda of the Animalia, are the most diverse group in Animalia. We use all the insects together. They have some unique. It's also the morphological diagnostic character of insects. The first one, the body is divided into 3 segments: the head, the thorax, and abdomen. The second, the head has the mouth parts and a pair of antennas, usually compound eyes and monocular. So, for example, mouth part is for eating. Antennas and eyes is a feeling organs. So the head is the center of the catching food and feeling. The thorax has 3 pair of thoracic feet, usually 2 pairs of wings. It's the most important characters. For the feet, for the wings, is the center of the sports and exercise. The fourth is the abdomen contains most of the internal organs and the reproductive system. It's the center of the reproductive system. So now let's look at the distinction among insects and other arthropoda. First one is Arachnida. For example, spider, 有 centipede, and scorpion. It's divided 2 parts. First one is a head, thorax. Another is a thorax and feet. It's the main difference. In a head without the foot. Another one is a crustacea. For example, the represents have a shrimp and the crab. The body is divided into two body segments. The cephalothorax has two pairs of the antennas, combined eyes, and at least 5 pairs of feet for action. The third we call the chilopoda. For example, the centipede. The body divided into two segments, the head and the carcass. The head is one pair of the antennas. Usually, the carcass segment has 1 or 2 pairs of feet. For example, centipedes, cockroaches, and malu. So the taxonomic status of the insects in Animalia, its originator, the Arthropoda. For the origins, we don't have the common cognition about this origin. We have this represents, for example, malu. It's a 3-leaved worm. It's already disappeared. Another one is a spider. For some shrimp and insects. For example, shrimp and insects, these two types is most similar. Insects is the most prosperous species of all types of the animal. And the insects diversity, what's the characteristic? We can have an overview of 4 respects. The first one is a long evolutionary history. Fossil data shows that the history of human beings is about 4.4 million years. How to get this data? We can see it's 2009 in science research. All the researchers, according to the research in Africa, according to a bone, through the research analysis, they found these bones actually is a human female bones is in Ethiopia. It's named RD. According to the fossil and the location and research this location, we found that this female is lived 4.4 million years ago. It's the earliest fossil. But for insects, at least 400 million years. It's according to all the documents of the fossil. We can get this data. The origin is at least 400 million years ago. It's earlier than the human beings. Another characteristic is high species diversity. Insects are the most species-rich animal group on Earth, with about 1 million known species, accounting for 1/2 of the global biodiversity and 2/3 of the known species in animal kingdom. That is too soon. Every 3 animals, there are 2 species of insects. The third characteristic is the tremendous amount of individuals. The number of individuals of same species may sometimes be large, such as, for example, the harmful worm is a locust and it's 20 billion, more than 20 billion is a locust. Another one is ants. It's estimated the individuals for this is about 5,460,000 billion. The fourth is a wider distribution. It distributes in almost every corner of the earth. There is no other animals can distributed like insects. From the high mountain to the fields, from the lake to the ocean, everywhere distributed the insects. I have two examples. This is in the United States. Is the under earth, the raw oil, we found this insect, we called the Helmia petrally. Another example, Chinese climber in the 6 kilometers, the Himalaya mountain, to find the Aglaes utica. Another one, what's the reason to the driving factors of insect diversity? With the development of the insects, so many types of the animals are disappeared. For example, the dinosaur. So why insects have so many diverse? One is having the wings and the flying ability. Insects is the only animal with the wings. It's also the earliest animal with the wings. They have the flying ability. It's give this a very good advantage to looking for the food and looking for the partner and avoid the enemy. The first we called the macroglossum, and the under we called is a dragonfly. All of this, they need to have the wings to get all the things. For the wings, have different types. It's the common 8 species, 8 types of the wings. It's the transparent wings. Another is have some scales in the wings. Another one is is hard wings to protect themselves. We can see this. This is one insect we call the Paratusa placentis. It's the former wings is hard wings, and the next is soft. The latter wings is a triangle. But can you know this type of the worm can it fly? It's in the early of the year. It's the broadcast in science. This type of the worm, it's not only can fly, but also it's the 3 times the flying speed than the same types insects. Also, it have a very good flying ability. It's not only to protect yourself. In these insects, it also have the assistant to fly function. The second, they have the small body with exoskeleton. Most of the insects is very small. There is an advantage. They just need a little food. They can meet their needs. The smallest insects, for example, this is a bean. The body size less than 1 mm. Except the small body, we can compare this. The up is the bones of the animal, the under is the bones of insects. For human beings, our bones is under in our skins, but the bones for insects is outside. They can control their body shape and have the function of the same as the person's skin. So that is make all the insects too easy to adjust the environment and hide themselves. For example, this type of worm we call the 铁臂甲虫. The body size is 2 centimeters, but they can hide the quality that it's 37,000 times. It's called the hardest insects. The third, it has high reproductive capacity and diverse reproductive modes. Most insects have amazing reproductive capacity. For example, carcinogenic. It's estimated if all the offspring of a carcinogenic aphid survive and continue to reproduce, the total number will reach 600 million after half a year. They don't need to cooperate with the male or female. They can reproduce by themselves. Combined with the short life cycles and diverse reproduction methods, allowing them to adapt quickly to various changes. So their descendants, some is a cocoon, some is the egg in the mother's body. For example, this is one type of the flies. The types of the reproductive is similar with the human beings. Every time they just have one baby to it, but it's so fast. So, high reproductive capacity and diverse reproductive modes, it's easily to adapt quickly to various changes. The fourth is the diverse mousepart types and feeding behaviors. Different groups of insects have different types of mouseparts. Generally, it can divide into 3 parts. First one is chewing mouseparts. It's a chewing mouseparts. For example, the locust. Second is absorbent mouth parts. We called absorbent mouth parts. For example, mosquito. The third is advanced mouth part. It can eat the food and to chewing the liquid. For example, the bee. It belongs to the chewing and absorbent mouth part. So different mouth part to lead to the diversity. For example, some insects to eat the leaves and hide in the leaves and eat the stem and eat the fruit. Some eat the meat. For example, the grasshoppers. Some is a parasite, like the parasite bee. Some insects to eat the corpse. It divided two types. One is eat the sheet. One type to eat the sheet. Another is eat the corpse. Another is also eat the corpse. It's a very important type of insect. It's the cleaner of the nature. Another type of, they eat multiple, they eat the vegetable, they eat the meat, they eat all the things. It's the change of the mouth part to lead to they eat the multiple things. The fifth part, the insects have the metamorphosis and development stages. Most insects belong to the complete the metamorphosis have 4 development stages. Their life have 4 stages. They from the egg, larva, pupa, and adult. The different stages of insects have different differences in habitat and feeding habits. For example, butterfly, we call the feather worm. They eat the leaves and the branches. When they become the adult, the multipart changes. They just can chew in some liquid, absorb some liquids. So different types and different stages. This avoid the contradiction in the needs of the similar insects in terms of the insects and food. The right worm is a harmful worm. Also, it also have the 4 stages. So the change of the stages is a very interesting biology phenomenon. In China, for insect stage, in ancient also noted it. For example, it's in 2000 years ago, one book we called Huainan Zi have one sentence. What's this meaning? 水颤 is live under the water. When it grow up, it will change into 葱. 葱now in today's China is a dragonfly. 水颤 is a baby of the dragonfly. 孑孓 is also live under the water and it will change into the mosquito. When it grew up, it's called meng. The sixth is that the insects have strongly adaptive abilities. Insects have strong adaptability to temperature, humidity, starvation, and chemicals. For example, this is one type of insects live in the desert. As we call it is pestle armor. Another one often have some various defense strategies. For example, we call it cactus. Do you find where the worm is? It looks like the cactus. Another one is another worms we call the 叶修. It's simulated. It's to imitate the green leaves. This one we call it's like a bee, but it's not. It's one type we call the throwing. For example, this is the baby of the butterfly. We call it papilio larvas. In its chest have the curve line. Also have some the bands or some spots. The eyes in the head is just a spot. It looks like a snake. Once get the fear, they will appear these curves. It's the defense strategies. We call it the defense master of the nature. Some insects will pretend to die. It's pretend to die. Some insects have to fear other insects. For example, in the trees have one locust. When they face the enemy, for example, the birds, they will use their spores to hide. It's like the ox eye. For example, some butterflies is one type of it's a victory butterfly, monarch butterfly. In the monarch butterfly to eat the poisonous leaves. This butterfly has poison. If the birds eat they will get poisonous and get die. And the under is without poisonous. It looks like these two types are similar. When the birds look at it, maybe they think it's poisonous, they don't eat it. This is also a defense strategy. So all of these diversity strategies and have the strong adaptive ability, they have the strong survivability to the environment. So it's lead to the diversity of the insects. So the insects, what's the importance of the insects? I conclude two aspects. One is the harmful aspects of insects. Another is the good aspects. First one is the harmful aspects in people's daily life. Clothes, food, living, and traveling is very harmful by the insects. The harmful insects to harm the plants and spread the disease to the human beings and to lead to the big loss. For example, According to the FAO, because of the harmful insects, the loss of the harvest will occupy the 10% of the all the harvest. Some of the harm is direct, some is indirect. For example, locust. Some it can spread the disease to the plants. It's the indirect. For some indirect, the disease is more harmful. For example, the locust occupied the 1/2 of the spreading disease. Some insects will attack the human beings. For example, the wasp. It appeared in Shanxi province. The wasp attacked the human beings. It led to 42% deaths. Another, for example, the red fire ant. In China, it's also a very, it will attack the human being's skin. It will be allergic. The most important, the worst thing that can lead the person death. The most dangerous animal, do you know what is the animal? It's not the snake, not the lion, not the tiger. This is WHO gave the data. It's a mosquito is the deadliest animals in the world. It's lead 830,000 people's deaths. Except the harmful aspects, it also have some beneficial aspects of insect. We have this following. First one is pollinators. About 85% of plants are entomophilous. And estimated about 75 of the world's crops depend on insects for the pollination, and 35% of food production is attributed to insects. Pollinators including bees, another bees, butterflies, moths, beetles, etc. Accounting for about 20% of the known insect species. Just now we said in the world have 100 million insects. So have 200,000 insects can pollinators. The data is increasing from the insects to spread. In United States, have a very famous researcher, Edward Wilson, in one speech. He said, if the insects disappeared in the world, just only the insects, the other animals, including human beings, it will appear. Most of the animals and most of the plants is through the insects to pollinate. The second is insects for industrial raw materials. For example, the silkworm. The silk is the raw material of the silk industry. That one is luck. It's one type of the worm. We call the luckworm. It's a very good materials for science. Another one is white wax. It's another worm. It will make the white wax. Have so many functions. It's a unique insect in China. It's we call the China's wax. Another one is the Chinese gao. This is one type of the bud worm. It to harm the leaves. It's the raw material of the lizard industry. So also it can take it to the medicine. Now I say the silk. China is the first country to use silk to weave silk and is the worst silk production center. The production of silk accounts for about 8% of the world total, and the output value of the sericulture industry has reached nearly 150 billion. It's in 2000 years ago, the Silk Road, and now the country's strategy, One Belt, One Road, is related with the silkworm. The third is natural enemy insects. There are a large number predatory of parasitic insects in nature, and they play a very important role in pest control, such as ladybugs, lacewings, parasitic wasps, parasitic flies. They parasite to eat some harmful insects. Today I will mention in South China agriculture as academician Pu Zhelong is the father of the biology of South China. It's to prevent the harmful worms from input from Australia to prevent some harmful insects. All of this make great progress. The fourth is edible insects, silkworm. Many insects can eat. About 5,000 species of insects are currently eaten worldwide. Insects are rich in protein, unsaturated fatty acids, and trace elements, and are a kind of food resource worthy of development. For example, in China, the silkworm Cherrysalis, you can fry it and to eat. Another one is cicada Cherrysalis. In North China, it's a common dishes in North China. This is one insects under the water. It's one diving beetle species. In South China, it's so common. Another one is in southwest China, Lijiang, Yunnan province hold an activity to eat hundreds of the insects. In some minor ethnic, for example, Gelao ethnic group, they have this festival to eat the worms festival. Except the medical insects except the eaten insects also can be the medicine. It has medicinal effect, can treat and assist in the treatment of certain diseases, and can enhance the immunity of insects. There are more than 300 species of insects to use the traditional Chinese medicine in China, such as the Cordyceps sinensis. It can to assist the human being's immunity. Another one is Mylabrys. It can have the function of to anti the cancer, the function. Another one we call the 土源. It can to block the blood. In China, we use the insects to the medicine in Xizhou dynasty. This book we called Zhouli is and noted that 5 medicine is grass, wood, worm, stone, valley. In Xihan dynasty, in Shen Nong Bai Cao Jing, it's noted 28 species. In Ming dynasty, as a very, very famous is 本草纲目. It's noted the insects medicine up to 106 species. The 6th is the model insects. Some insects have successively become model organisms due to their short life cycle, easy mass rearing, precise control or genetic background, and freedom from the human ethics. That they play a leading role in revealing the nature and application of life. For example, the fruit flies. It's from Morgan. It uses it as a model insect to find some inherent knowledge, including him. There are 6 persons they get 6 times Nobel Prize. In total, the 10 scientists. Another one is a silkworm. Also is one important Bombyx mori. The Chinese scientist to finish the gene. It's after the human gene and the hybrid gene. It's the 3rd gene result for the human beings. The next year, it's published in the Science. The 7th is insects bionics. Mimic the structure and function of insects to create devices or objects for the benefit of humans. For example, this picture, the writer, this high mod is actually is the cave of the white ants. When we distract the caves, we found different types. The temperature, the humidity is different. It's a natural ventilator. The architect used this concept in Zimbabwe to build a shopping center. This market used the white ants, the structure, to save the electric energy and to control the pollution for the environment. It's the insect bionics. For example, this is in Harvard University. According to the bee flying and the structure of the bee, they create and invent some device bee. They want to use it in the future to replace some of the polluters. Also, it can use in some military parts. So all of this is insect bionics. The eighth is the cultural insects. Insects that can beautify and enrich people's cultural life. For example, ornamental insects like butterfly, firefly, and also some can have the sound. For example, the crickets. The most function is to appear their partners. Meanwhile, some insects, their structure, they can make it to some patterns. For example, this is butterfly painting. In this picture, all the plants, all the insects, all of the things is made of the wings of the butterfly. This is in China, is a cricket cultural festival. This insect it have a long history. It's regarded as a cultural heritage. The influence of insects on Chinese culture is very extensive and profound. For example, there are more than 300 Chinese characters with insects as their radicals, more than 40 surnames with insects as their radical, more than 200 place names with their insects as their radicals, and more than 10,000 insect poems. And there are more than 100 folk festivals related to the insects. For example, the character of the summer. In the ancient, these characters originate from the cicada, because the cicada live in the summer. For example, this chill autumn is related with the katydid. After katydid, the katydid will die. 5,000 years ago, in Hongshan, in this heritage, we found the butterfly shape accessory. We can know in 5,000 years ago and 7,000 years ago, we found the butterfly shape accessory. So for Chinese, and insect history in China is profound. Except the above beneficial and have other beneficial insects. Some insects can improve soil, decompose humus, and can also be used in criminal investigation and environmental monitoring. We call it the cleaner of the nature. For example, for some the flies can use into some criminal investigation. For example, for the corpse, according to the times of the insects to estimate the time of the death time to judge the criminal investigation. Others can be the environmental indicators. For example, butterfly. Butterfly is so sensitive to the environment because the diversity of the butterfly can judge the environment of the region. In China, in this past of years, government pay more attention, use the butterfly as the indicators for environment. So now, this is a conclusion. So this speech, I introduced the basic knowledge about the insects. What is the insect? The diversity of insects and the importance of insects. I introduced the origins, the characteristics, and his importance of the animal. In diversity, I introduced the characteristics and the reason and the importance of insects. For humans, have two parts, is harmful parts and beneficial parts. At last, I will spend a little time. I will introduce our team. Our team is mainly working on taxonomy, systematics, evolution, and conservation of many insect groups such as butterfly, moth, ground moth, ground beetles, ladybirds, mayflies, stripes, fruit flies, wasps, etc., and have described more than 2,000 new insect species in China. All the members have 4 professors and 4 associate professors. If you have any interest, we welcome you to cooperate with us. So this speech is the end. Thank you so much.
Muchísimas gracias, profesor Wang, por su presentación. La verdad que estuvo muy interesante todo, todo el contenido.
Thank you so much for Professor Wang.
Bastantes comentarios que les ha encantado la clase y también comentarios complementando lo que la presentación del profesor Mon al inicio, de que también en América Latina tenemos insectos comestibles, que estamos relacionados, a veces las fotos igual y los nombres son diferentes, pero también tenemos nuestras propias culturas de los insectos aquí en América Latina. Así que les agradecemos. Aquí saludamos a John, a Langen y a Josber, que están dando los comentarios de felicitaciones. Les recordamos entonces que mañana tenemos nuestra última jornada de esta semana. Mañana, 1 hora antes, van a recibir en su correo electrónico la confirmación y el recordatorio de entrar a la sesión. Muchas gracias a todos los participantes. Muchas gracias al profesor Wang y a todo el equipo de la Universidad Agrícola del Sur de China. Un saludo también a los traductores y nos vemos mañana. 谢谢大家.
Thank you so much. See you tomorrow.
再见, adiós.
See you.
再见.